Hi, I'm Dr. Jacob Lauritzen, and this is Read, Write, and Cite, the show where I teach you how to read, write, and cite for your college classes. I do this as part of Carpe and Zen Productions. It's a media production I run when I'm not being a teacher in a high school or in college classes. So I hope you find these videos useful and helpful for you. If you have a specific question, you can ask me in the comments below. So that brings up the topic for this video. I got a request from Finley Crawford, and this is what it says. Read, write, and cite. If you could do one on reading and analysis, because I have exams coming up soon. So it'd be really helpful, and thanks. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about reading and analysis. I've got an example queued up, and just going to kind of dig through things for a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to showing my screen. So here we go. I like to start with a basis to make sure we're using the right terms, right? Okay, so if I search what is analysis on Google, this is what I get. Noun, detailed examination of the elements or structure of something. In this case, let's say it's something that we're reading. It's a text, like a poem or a short story. Well, if I'm going to analyze it, I have to break it down or examine it in a detailed way. There are a million different ways that we can do this. There are a lot of different styles or literary theories, different perspectives. The most common is something probably pretty similar to a book report. You kind of say what the text says and maybe give some insight into it. That's the core of most literary analysis. You're going to be looking at what something says and kind of giving your perspective. One of the reasons why this has value, and a teacher might ask you to do this, is because your perspective is your own. And whatever the author intended to do, as important and as valuable as that is, the meaning of a text isn't determined until someone reads it. I want to explain that again. The meaning of a text really isn't determined until someone reads it, because they're the audience, right? Until that point, there is just the intent of the author. But once the author has said her or said his piece, it's up to the reader to do the rest. So your response has value. One thing I was telling my students today is, I don't want you to have this anxiety when you're reading something like there's a correct answer that you're supposed to find, and if you don't find it, you're doing something wrong. That is just, it's an anxiety caused by schools and not by reading, right? If you go into a bookstore and you sit down and you read something, you don't have to worry about answering to anyone like an English teacher like myself. But, staring over your shoulder going like, hey, so what do you think of this? You're going to write a paper on that? Can you prove it? Can you give support? It's like, oh, no. It's what you get out of it, right? That is the purest form of analysis, when it doesn't have the weight of an assignment. And yet, if a teacher is asking you to do something, it's so important that you understand what they're looking for so that you can provide that. For one, so that you're doing the assignment correctly, and two, so that you can get a grade that represents what you're capable of. But in the purest form of the concept, you shouldn't have to read to answer to anyone, myself included. And we suck the joy out of reading because we make it about proving something. But the truth is, and the further you get into English, people realize this, there's more than one answer because there's more than one perspective. Otherwise, conversation would have been over a long time ago. Whoever was first to get to it would have said that point and it would be over. But it's not. You haven't come along till just now. And so what you have to bring to it, that has value in and of itself. So you need to form an opinion, right? There's literary theories kind of inform an opinion to help you I searched what is literary theory, and it just gives me links. It doesn't give me a definition. I'll give you my definition. I guess Wikipedia's got something. I'll show you this. Okay, systematic study of the nature of literature and the methods of analyzing literature. That's why I'm bringing it up. Has to do with kind of like a specific perspective. If you've ever like tried on glasses that have a certain tint, or like look through sunglasses, it changes how things look, right? If it's polarized, things may look different. You may kind of see like a rainbow, or certain things may stand out. If you put on like 3D glasses, things might stand out to you. Literary theory is kind of like putting on a different pair of glasses that make certain things highlighted and kind of show up. If I'm looking at things with a Marxist perspective, then I'm looking for power. I'm looking for how money is used, who's in charge, who's kind of being the boss of someone else. How are they using power? How are they seeking power? It's a perspective about power. Does that make sense? If I'm doing some form of a feminist, and there's a million different ways to do this, but it's some form of feminist analysis, then I'm going to be looking for how women are treated, how they're represented, how other people see them within that story, that poem, that play, right? It's kind of a specific perspective looking for certain kinds of things. You with me so far? I hope this is helpful. Those are different kinds of way to analyze things. Now, if your teacher isn't asking you to use some sort of literary theory, then it's kind of open to you and your interpretation. You need to form an opinion based on your own experience and what you think about it. The important thing, though, is in any sort of academic setting, you have to back it up. You have to justify it or explain it. And that's going to require like a deep an analysis to where you're looking at the poem, the play, and you're going to say, all right, this is what I think their so-and-so is trying to say, or better yet, just state it as a fact. I'm going to give you an example. This is a poem I pulled up. I've been teaching Langston Hughes recently, so I thought I'd bring this up. In Theme for English B by Langston Hughes, he writes a paper for his English class in college. But if I have some sort of analysis to add to that, then I'm starting to come up with something that I'm going to have to back up. I've said something debatable, something that maybe someone would disagree with, and that's okay. Once you've stated something that has some opinion to it, that isn't just a fact that someone might disagree with you on, you're starting to get into the realm for what papers are about. Papers need to have some sort of direction, a thesis, and that thesis has to be debatable, or else people are going to read it and they're going to be like, well, what's the point? What are they saying? They're just, regurgitating things that anyone thinks or feels or believes. But when we're writing academic papers, we're trying to add something to what the world has, and we have our perspectives to offer. Yeah? So, I'm going to read part of this poem, Theme for English B by Langston Hughes. I don't know which year this specific poem was, but he went to Columbia. He went to Columbia, and that's kind of what he's referencing. Columbia? Cornell. It's one of those C schools in New York. I think it's Columbia. Anyway, all right. Poem is called Theme for English B. English B is like the class he's in, okay? And theme in this case is a paper. The instructor said, "Go home and write a page tonight, and let that page come out of you. Then it will be true." I wonder if it's that simple. I am 22, colored, born in Winston-Salem. I went to school there, then Durham, then here to this college on the hill above Harlem. I'm the only colored student in my class. The steps from the hill lead down into Harlem, through a park. Then I cross St. Nicholas, 8th Avenue, 7th, and I come to the Y, the Harlem branch Y, where I take the elevator up to my room, sit down, and write this page. You notice anything? Is it rhyming? No? Okay. Keep thinking what you think about this poem, right? Because we're going to talk about that in a second. It's not easy to know what is true for you or me at 22, my age. But I guess it's what I feel and see and hear. Harlem, I hear you. Hear you, hear me, we too, you, me, talk on this page. I hear New York too. Me? Who? Well, I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love. I like to work, read, learn, and understand life. I like a pipe for a Christmas present, or records, Bessie, Bop, or Bach. I guess being colored doesn't mean me not like the same things other folks like who are other races. So will my page be colored that I write? Being me, it will not be white, but it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white, yet a part of me as I am a part of you. That's American. Sometimes perhaps you don't want to be a part of me, nor do I often want to be a part of you, but we are. That's true. As I learn from you, I guess you learn from me, although you're older and white and somewhat more free. This is my page for English B. So, I can take this a lot of different ways, and you may take this different than me. There is not a correct interpretation of this, and that's one of the beautiful things about poetry, that it's not about trying to figure out the correct answer, like, oh, it's a riddle. It's something you figured out. That's not it, right? It's about expressing your perspective and backing it up, because then you can share what you've gotten out of it with someone else, and they can benefit by it. It expands their insight into it as well. And maybe they may think, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I can agree with that. Or maybe they're like, no, I don't see it that way. Or I can kind of see what you're saying, but I don't agree with you. And that is the beauty of literature. It's open to interpretation. So let me interpret this just a little bit. Here he is writing a poem that is a paper for an English class, where the teacher said, go write something that's true. And he's like, what is true? And then he's thinking out loud. It's a bit free-flowing. He describes his walk home till he sits down and he talks about it. That's kind of what he's doing right here. He's like, well, I don't know. What are the things that influence what I write? What is true to me? What is true to you? It might be different. Here I am. This is what I'm doing. Harlem. Yes, okay. Harlem, I hear you. You hear me, you too, we talk on this page. He goes through this whole thing, and he's kind of talking about normal life and what he likes. And then he kind of comes to this realization of his connection with his teacher, how as he learns from his teacher becomes part of him, but also his teacher he has become part of his teacher as a student, as someone who was writing this poem. So again, so will my page be colored that I write? Being me, it will not be white. And he's rhyming, that's nice, it's clever. But it will be a part of you, instructor. You are white, yet a part of me, as I am a part of you. That's American. Sometimes perhaps you don't want to be a part of me, nor do I often want to be a part of you, but we are. That's true. And so he's kind of stumbled into this thought. Did he get directly there? Did he go straight to it? Or was it kind of a free thought exercise that made this poem? But he kind of hits on an interesting point, that as we read, we absorb, we gain knowledge from someone, they kind of become part of us. And so, even though they're different, teacher's white, he's not, they're both American. And that's true. There's a lot of different ways you could take this, and you kind of, what you want to do is you kind of want to point to where it's at and say, all right, so this is, in writing a paper, you don't really want to say what you think. You don't say, I like at all, right? You don't say, I think, I feel, I believe. You just state it as a fact. Why do you do that? Because your perspective is valid and you can state it as truth because it is, just like the poem talks about, it is true because you're going to back it up, right? You can say in Theme for English B by Langston Hughes, he explains how by simply reading this, Langston Hughes becomes a part of you. That's debatable. And so I can back it up and I can point to this bottom stanza and I can read these lines and I can explain that and I'm justified. But it is debatable. It is something that maybe not everyone agrees with, and that's okay. You don't have to persuade someone in an academic paper where you're doing an analysis. Yes, persuasive papers are going to intend to persuade, but you don't have to actually persuade for it to be effective, right? These are the things that I think don't get explained very well to students. They get this anxiety that it's like, I'm doing all this wrong, but teachers just need to explain, hey, I just want you to learn how to express a thought. You just got to form an opinion and back it up. That's what we're trying to teach you and how to do it well. And if your teacher's trying to do something else, then they're kind of on their own agenda because that's not what literature or English is necessarily about. And obviously, this is what I think, and people can disagree, and that's fine. But I hope that as you come across this video, if you've made it this far into this video, that you've found some value and hopefully some confidence that whatever you think, it's valuable, but maybe you can dig a little bit deeper. Maybe you could take more than one pass at a poem to figure out what it means. You can dig deep. You could say, all right, well, what school is, up a hill from Harlem? Oh, that's the school. That's where he's at. Where is this why? Are there any pictures? You can make this real. You can dig deep. Who is Bessie? Bach. These are, musicians, right? New for his time period, old, right? But whatever you have to bring to this is valuable. So if you're doing a deep analysis and you have to write a paper, write that paper and do it confidently. Bring an opinion, but back it up. But don't, and this is weird, don't state it as an opinion, state it as a fact. Because when you back it up, any experienced person understands there's more than one perspective, and stating it as fact is fine. You just don't want to overstate something, right? You want to qualify it in some way by saying, so-and-so says this. It can be interpreted this way. Then you've qualified it as much as you can. You don't want to say, like, everyone thinks this because you're going to be wrong, right? Don't overstate your point, and you'll be fine. This is just the basis of literary analysis, of reading and analysis for a college class. Now, obviously, if you're doing a specific assignment, make sure you understand what your teacher is asking you to do. And hopefully your teacher is not so conceited and stuck on themselves that they aren't willing to explain if you have a question. If you're like, I've read what you're saying, but I just don't quite understand it. Hopefully they'll be willing to explain so that you can do exactly what they're asking to do. Understand the instructions and give them what they need. Just like in this poem, Langston Hughes did for his teacher. So I hope this is valuable. I hope this is helpful. I hope this answers your question, Finley. And I hope I'm not too late because it's been about a week since you made the comment. So I am sorry, but hopefully this is valuable to anyone who comes across this. So if you have a question, feel free to ask me in the comments. I'll be glad to make a video to answer it because I'm here to help you. And hopefully this video has. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here on this channel. If you found this useful, please hit the bell to be notified when a new video comes out. And if you think you know someone that might benefit from this, please share this with them so that they can benefit from us as well. Thank you. I'm Dr. Jacob Lauritzen. This is Read, Write, and Cite for Carpe and Productions. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.